Hi friends, I just want to give you a little walkthrough here of a technique book that I made a while back. So these are buttons on here, and then I used the eyelet attachment here. And this is a mixed media style book. So this is paper with a vinyl window here. On this side, I made a floating rickrack here. So it's barely tacked onto the edge. And then I did a rickrack, they call it insertion here. Okay, and then on this side, I did a blind hem. And so that's what it looks like there, what it looks like underneath. And then here's my actual blind hem. So you can barely see it. That's the way it's supposed to look. And on this side, I used the BSR, and I did some little quilting inside here and sewed some beads on. And then just quilted some pieces down here. This is the needle punch attachment. So I made the little, I just strung out little bits of yarn, I think is what I did, there. And then this was some wool roving on a piece of silk, and then on top of a piece of denim. This is in part from a pant leg. And then I took my name from a salvage. There was a designer, forget her last name now, but I just cut that off of her salvage. And you can see underneath, this is what wool roving looks like after you needle punch it down. Then I made like little flip pages here. Oops, move that up a little bit. So there's the wool roving. That's what the needle punch attachment looks like. So little flip pages. And on this side, I did couching with the 22 and the 25 foot, so a 3 groove and a 5 groove. On this side, I did the ruffler, which is number 86, and I made her little dress. And I have another sample farther on that uses the ruffler also. Over here, I used the bulky overlock foot, which is either 12 or 12C. And then a little card here. This is just a little shipping tag with some string on the top, yarn, that talks about what you use it for. So here's my little samples here. And let's tuck that in. Over here, I have corded pin tucks and uncorded pin tucks using the 46C foot. And then on this side, I have some more uncorded pin tucks, and I used my lettering here to make note of whether it was corded or uncorded. And then I couched a little piece of cord down so I could have that visual reference of what I used. On this side, we have the gathering foot, number 16. And I left it open a little bit so I could peek behind there and see what I used. Here I used stitch length was 5, here was 5, and here was 6. So I made little notes on my samples. On this side, I used the number 39 clear embroidery foot, which has a hole horizontally, horizontally through the center of the foot, and that allows you to feed cording through it. So you can kind of see that here, where that cord goes right through the horizontal hole of the foot. And you can use it for elastic. So this is shearing with elastic. And then I used it here for couching. And then here I zigzagged over a piece of cord and then pulled the cord to create gathers. Over here is the tailor tack foot. It's kind of a funny looking foot, but you can use it to make pretty little fringe like this. On this side, I used a double needle. So I did some decorative stitches with a double needle. And then over here, this is some t-shirt knit. Sometimes when I buy t-shirts, they are too long, and I like to cut them and basically hem them up. But to get the same look that I got from the manufacturer, I use a double needle here. And so it ends up with a zigzag on the back side, and I pinked it. And then you have your hem. So obviously matching thread, and it would look just like it came that way from the store. This is a 2-page spread using the circle attachment tool. So I made some yo-yos with some instructions printed on here. Some yo-yos, and then I used the couching, did some couching with it, and some decorative stitches with the circle attachment tool. Over here, I used the coordinate foot, number 11, with some coordinate thread, and just did some faux sashiko. It's usually a handwork technique but you can also do it with a sewing machine. Here is a non-stick foot. Bernina has a few different non-stick feet. The Teflon feet usually is what they are. And then I put this zipper in here. There we go. And I put it on vinyl. And then I used it like a little pocket. So I did some faux leather here. And some, this is actually like a binder, like one of those poly folders that I cut a piece off of. Here's some clear vinyl. And then that faux leather. And then on this side, this is some vinyl, heat attached to vinyl. So you iron it onto your regular cotton fabric and it makes it water resistant. I won't say proof, but water resistant. Over here I did some free motion couching with the 43 foot with some sparkly thread. On this side I used the hemmers. So 61 through 69 are the hemmer feet. And then I have this little book here that shows the different feet, whoops, the different sizes, the different numbers. So 3mm, 4mm, 6. This is a roll and shell foot. And then some little notes on using the hemmer feet. So that roll and shell foot is, let's pick this up real close so you can see it, is this sample right here. Okay, on this side, I did some couching with some different couching feet. Couching, get it, huh? And then some little cards here. On this side, here's my salvage again. On this side, I have a little booklet that I made using the button sew-on button sew-on foot. This little book is made out of lunch bags. So, see there? Cute, huh? And so, little pictures. I also used it to sew on some other things besides buttons. And here's some buttons. And some little notes. These are hair ties, by the way, that I'm using here for my elastic. And then I decorated the page with just some little bits of fabric stitched down. Okay, on here, this page, I used the number 10 foot. I love the number 10 foot, 10, 10C or 10D, depending on your machine. But I made some little tucks here using the number 10 foot. But it's great for edge stitching. You get perfect edge stitching with that foot. Over here, I made some eyelet samples using the eyelet set. And a little card, tag. Okay, next page. Here's the Spanish hem stitch attachment. So usually this is used to join two pieces of fabric together with stitching in between. So between the twill tape here, the Moda tape, and here, this piece of fabric, you can see this brown stitching, and then I have cord in the middle. And I used a couple different settings on the stitches just for variety and to see what they look like. Up here I used some organza ribbon with cord in the center. And on this side there's no cord. Over here I used the double cord feet. So 59 and 60. So the bottom of the feet have 2 grooves. So you can attach 2 rows of cords at the same time. So I stitched on this twice, one here and one here. And this one was just once. Okay, this is the leather roller foot, number 55. I heard that this foot was actually designed for making handmade gloves. When the people used to make handmade gloves, the seam here was so tight, they needed to make really tight curves. And so Bernina designed this foot specifically for that. So I just did a little design using it. On this side, here's my other ruffler page. So I have different examples of different settings. So this one's pretty tight, and then some looser ones, pleats, and I left them kind of open so that I could peek underneath and see what it looks like underneath. Okay, over here are buttonholes and a zipper insertion. So these are all the different variety of buttonhole stitches that were on my machine. And then I have a functional zipper here with a little, what is that called? Cording zipper pull. So a nice little functional zipper there. And I did use non-matching thread so that I could see how I inserted that zipper. Okay, and then this is my last page, just some nice little words that I sewed down, fused and sewed, and then the back page, let your life speak. So this is a little quilted square I put on the back cover. And then I have some decorative stitching here. My pages all have this chenille yarn couched down. I used the eyelet tool to make holes in each of my pages. And then I bound them together with just strips of fabric using a binding tool to make a really skinny binding, like bias tape. And I found these cute little letter buttons that I sewed on there. Hope you enjoyed that. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.